The approval arrives and it feels like the hard part is over. A lender says you may qualify, but that number can still leave your budget with almost no room after one full month and one $3,600 repair. Before you make it your budget, ask, how much house can you own without making the rest of your life fragile? You'll get a house margin test you can use before closing. For now, the payment on the screen looks manageable. Not cheap, but manageable. So you do one small thing. You reopen the home search app and move the maximum price filter up to the approval limit. Immediately, better homes appear. More space, a quieter street, a kitchen that looks like the life you have been working toward. The approval number stops feeling like a ceiling and starts feeling like permission. That is where the house poor trap often begins. Not with an obviously reckless purchase. With a reasonable buyer, a professional approval, and a monthly number that seems to fit. In this example, the principal and interest payment is $2,550. Your household brings home $8,000 a month. You have handled rent, debt payments, groceries, childcare, and savings before. So $2,550 looks possible. And it may be possible to make that payment. But qualifying for a mortgage and comfortably affording the life attached to the house are not the same tests. The lender is deciding whether the loan works under its rules. Only your household can decide how much room must remain for savings, repairs, career changes, and family needs. Still, the house feels right. You close. Then the first complete month arrives. The $2,550 principal and interest number is still there. But now it sits beside $650 for property taxes, home owner's insurance, and applicable mortgage insurance. Utilities add another $250. And because owning a home means paying for it when nothing is broken and when something is, you set aside $300 for maintenance and future repairs. Your all-in housing burn is not $2,550. It is $3,750. That does not mean the lender hid the other costs. A proper loan estimate can show a broader estimated payment, including applicable taxes, insurance, and escrowed items. But the number that wins the argument in your head is often the cleanest one. And even a broader mortgage estimate does not run your full household budget for utilities, maintenance, irregular repairs, savings goals, and everything else you care about. Now run the rest of this fictional household. Take-home pay is $8,000. Other fixed obligations are $1,200. Essential variable spending is $1,900. Required monthly savings is $1,000. After the $3,750 all-in housing burn, only $150 remains. The house is not in default. Every bill can still be paid, but the budget has almost no room to move. At first, you tell yourself this is normal. Moving is expensive, the first month is always messy, things will settle down. So you make an adjustment. You lower the automatic savings transfer, the mortgage stays current. The house still looks like progress from the outside. And because nothing has technically failed, reducing savings feels responsible. You are protecting the home. You are being disciplined. But notice what happened. The house did not become more affordable. You changed the rest of your life to keep the house looking affordable. 1 month becomes 3, then 6. At month 3, the savings transfer is smaller again because the utility bill runs higher than expected. At month 4, a minor plumbing visit takes another bite. At month 5, you skip a planned weekend away and tell yourself the timing was bad anyway. By month 6, the household is still functioning. That is what makes the trap hard to recognize. There is no dramatic collapse. There is only a series of choices that keep moving money away from the future and toward the house. Property taxes and home owners' insurance premiums can also change, which means the total payment can change even when principal and interest are fixed. None of these costs has to be catastrophic. That is the point. Small ownership costs keep landing inside a budget that only had $150 of planned margin to begin with. The reduced savings transfer stops feeling temporary. It becomes the new normal. You still make every scheduled payment. So you still tell yourself the house is affordable. But the definition of affordable has quietly changed. At closing, affordable meant the house would create security. 6 months later, affordable means you have not missed a payment yet. That is fixed cost concentration in real life. Too much of your usable cash flow is committed before the month begins. The problem is not only that you spend more. The problem is that fewer expenses are adjustable when life changes. A job you dislike becomes harder to leave. A period of unpaid time becomes more dangerous. A family need competes with the house. A missed savings month becomes easy to repeat. From the outside, you look more established. Inside the budget, you are more dependent on everything going right. Then the house asks for money on its own schedule. Several months later, an unavoidable repair costs $3,600. That number is not being presented as an average repair bill. It is a simple stress test. With only $150 of planned monthly margin, rebuilding $3,600 would take 24 months. So the payment has to come from somewhere else. Maybe you drain part of the emergency reserve and immediately begin worrying about the next problem. Maybe you put it on a high-interest credit card and turn one repair into months of additional payments. Maybe you cancel another important goal, the savings transfer, a medical expense you had planned for, or the cash that was supposed to make a job change possible. The exact choice depends on the household, but the meaning is the same. The original budget could make scheduled payments, yet it could not handle one normal ownership surprise without damaging something else. The house passed a payment test. It failed a resilience test. And now the approval looks different. The deeper mistake was not simply forgetting one bill. It was allowing the lender's maximum to become your personal definition of enough. The lender and the household are answering different questions. The lender asks whether the loan meets lending and repayment criteria. You have to ask whether the complete cost leaves enough room for your actual life. That is why the better question is not, what is the maximum house I can qualify for? It is, what is the maximum all-in housing burn that still lets the rest of my life work? You can answer that with a simple framework. The house margin test. First, start with the estimated total monthly mortgage payment, not principal and interest alone. Second, add costs that may sit outside that payment. HOA dues when applicable, utilities and other property-specific recurring costs. Third, create a realistic monthly reserve for maintenance and irregular repairs. There is no universal number that fits every property. The point is to stop pretending irregular means optional. Fourth, subtract the complete housing burn, your other obligations, essential spending, and the savings you have decided still matters. Do not quietly set savings to zero just to make the house pass. If retirement contributions, emergency reserves, education savings, or another goal mattered before the purchase, the house should have to coexist with them after the purchase. What remains is your retained monthly margin. This is not a universal percentage, and it is not a government underwriting rule. It is a household decision tool. Two families with the same income may need different margins because their health costs, job stability, childcare, commuting, and priorities are different. Then run the repair test. Could you handle a $3,600 ownership shock without high-interest debt? Could you do it without cutting your emergency reserve below the level your household needs or canceling another essential priority? If the answer is no, the house may fit the lender's boundary while failing your household boundary. Now apply the same test to a lower personal ceiling. In this illustration, the second home has $2,050 of principal and interest, $550 for taxes, insurance, and applicable mortgage insurance, $150 in utilities, and the same $300 maintenance and repair reserve. The all-in housing burn is $3,050. Keep the household income and the rest of the budget exactly the same. Now the retained monthly margin is $850. That is $700 more room every month. The lower cost house does not solve every money problem. It does not guarantee security. It simply gives the household more room when something changes. In the first house, a $3,600 repair equals 24 months of the $150 margin. In the second, it equals a little more than 4 months of the $850 margin. That difference is not just a spreadsheet result. Picture the next 6 months in the second house. The savings transfer keeps running. The repair reserve begins rebuilding. A higher utility bill is annoying, not destabilizing. A family expense still requires a choice, but it does not automatically become debt. It is the ability to keep saving after a repair. It is the ability to take a better job with a less predictable first month. It is the ability to handle a family expense without immediately reaching for debt. It is the ability to own the house without asking every other part of life to stay small. This is the psychological reversal. Buying below the approval maximum can feel like giving something up. A bedroom, a neighborhood feature, a visible sign that you have made it. But you are not only buying less house, you may be buying more time, more options, and more room to recover when life becomes expensive. The goal is not to fear home ownership or to choose the cheapest possible property. The goal is to stop treating approval as the final instruction. If this helped you see your money more clearly, subscribe to Wealth Made Clear. This video is for general educational purposes only and is not personalized financial advice. A lender can approve the loan. Only your household can approve the amount of life left after the house is paid for. And that is the number that determines whether the home creates security or quietly consumes it.